Yes.
Okay. I'll bet you if you look at your pulleys that the bearing is set below the surface of the flange.
I would assume that there's supposed to be a little bit of play, considering if there's not, you'd be rubbing against the Delrin.
Yeah, and Steve, I bet you if you look at your pulleys, they're going to be flush against the flange. Because the spacer, the shim, and correct me if I'm wrong, Josh, the shim outer diameter is equal to or less than the diameter of the bearing.
So what I'm seeing is that...
okay, go ahead, actually.
One side of the pulley is slightly proud, where the bearing is pressed.
Yeah.
So it like sticks out?
Sticks out just a tiny bit. Just a hair.
Okay.
The other one is actually just a tiny, tiny bit below the surface.
I see. Okay, so what I recommend you do is the first one. You should take it apart. Well, I guess you already have it taken apart. The one that's sticking out slightly, I would take it, flip it upside down, and push on it on like a table, and see if you can get it to be flush.
Arbor press.
Well, the arbor press is a little bit. I don't want to damage it, so just first see if it'll go in with the table by hand.
So the way I did it is I heated it up and then I pressed it against my a piece of granite. And you have your plate, your
Oh, you're doing heat set or not heat set? You're doing thermal set bearings. Nice.
You could. I'm just worried about the oil burning up, but that might probably work.
Yeah, it's. I mean, you typically do that before you well, typically the bearings are frozen and the housing is heated. So.
Okay, did you get it to work?
Anyway, hey Josh, how's your day going?
What have I been up to? I have been now experiencing the cabin fever, to be honest. It's been all right. I think at this point I have also figured out that hosting all of the SolidWorks files individually is probably the best way to go because everything stays small and it only ends up being like 100 megabytes of space. So it sounds like it's probably going to be the way to go.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
So how are you going to host them?
Oh, just as raw files. And I mean, it'll be weird because people will have to download. I mean, it'll be, it's like almost too much information, but I did, because it's a lot of parts. But I got it to export from SolidWorks. I cleaned up the file structure and then got it to export out of SolidWorks in a way where it preserves the file structure, and then also got it to respect the relative path. Actually, didn't have to do any work there. I just double checked that if you open it, if you move the whole group of folders together somewhere else, that still works. You can still open everything and it won't complain about where things are. So it's openable. So that kind of checks all the boxes there. So I might end up doing that. It's just a lot of files.
A lot of files is about what it is.
Yeah, it could be a little cleaner, but I'll work on it later. What's up?
So I've got that about as good as it's going to get.
Is it flat? Is
it flat? I hear tools.
That's not me. That was Eric.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, probably me. I
For you?
successfully printed one of the headbands for the face
nice.
sheet. Yeah. And it came out looking really good. And I don't have the acetate sheet to attach to the front. I was going to use my Cricut cutter to cut that because I don't have a laser.
That's a great way to do it. Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
And I was going to, once I finish it, I was going to give it to a nurse friend of mine to assess its value. So, anyway, this one actually, the switch one I posted looks really good. It goes together pretty nicely, but it isn't like the one that wraps around the top of your head. But, you know, it's already been endorsed by at least one actual healthcare professional. So, whereas the other ones I haven't seen any anecdotal evidence or whatnot. But did you press? Is it flush?
it is about as flush as I'm gonna get it. When you look at the surface of the pulley itself, it's slightly convex.
Okay, is the other side flush as well?
Yeah.
Okay, that's probably gonna be good enough. Let's
That's
but that is the problem, is that it's not it's a when it's not manufacturing. I guess it's a pulley defect.
Yeah. Do you have another
Uh,
pulley?
So.
Oh yeah, if you have another pulley.
Get
Oh
another
yeah.
pulley.
Yeah, just
I've swapped through several though.
Oh, do they all stick out?
Yeah, they're all within about the same tolerance.
Damn,
And the
that's bad.
other, I swapped the other.
Right?
Sorry, what?
You have extras?
Yeah.
Okay, arbor press it. Use it. Arbor press it. Don't leave an opening below it.
Yeah.
Just
Arbor press is a good idea. If you can like put a flat surface in between the actual arbor press, because the arbor press, like the square bit on the bottom, if you buy a really cheap one, which I did,
Yeah.
it's not like perfectly flat. But if you put like a piece of aluminum or like some plate or something, then you'll be fine.
But what I'm seeing when I look at it is, let me see if I can show you guys this. I don't know if it's going to show in the lighting.
Probably not, but there you go. No. Okay, that works. Yeah. My youngest and I spend most of our days sending silly pictures and cat videos back and forth.
Hey, that looks pretty good.
Yeah, and it's got a nice spring to it, and it has a really,
Cool.
the finish is pretty good. I see one tiny opening that would cause, the only thing I think it would cause would be it soak up alcohol. But you can sterilize, you can do an alcohol dip on these things. That's not going to impact the PLA, or at least not for its usable life.
Okay.
What did you do to your gel?
Yeah. What are we looking at?
Oh, we're seeing the wear.
Do you see the tiny little bit of wear on the?
Oh yeah, I see it.
That was where it was kind of stacked up. Now, on my other one, so this is what I think is the culprit possibly on this. Let me show you guys another pic.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it too much. It's gonna wear until there's nothing to wear out anymore. It's like, it's gonna wear until there's nothing to wear out anymore.
Well, it's gonna lap itself into it.
Yeah, and that part is not like a precision locating feature.
It's a wobble support for the shoulder bolt. Because most of the stress is taken on the shoulder bolt. That's just another constraint.
That's what I'm. So do you see do you think that small amount of bulge around the heated insert is?
That looks fine.
And well, okay, that alone is probably not a problem by itself.
Quick side question for you guys.
Adding up all the other tolerances you've got going on for you with their pulleys, and then that short, if you've got a short posts and pulleys that aren't flush, and you see what I'm saying? You start getting compound error.
That's a tolerance stack-up problem. But I think you're fine. You should be fine at this point if you push down the other piece.
Yeah, and I think you were saying earlier, I think you need to shim your posts, your support posts, until it's parallel. So the Delrin plate should be parallel with the surface of the corner post or the corner plate.
to assemble it without taking everything all apart, but that may fail.
Oh, it's gonna fall all apart. Anyway. Is 20 millimeters wide enough? I am.
So the one COVID bonus is I'm getting time to work on my printer.
You know, I don't know that that's a bonus. People ask me, what do you do because you're isolated at home? I'm isolated at home? Is anything different than what I normally do?
My cousin that I've been playing video games with over, like, you know, the internet for the last 20 plus years, and I are both like, we've been practicing for this our whole lives.
Yeah, pretty much.
The only difference is I'm no longer 16 and I no longer spend time on 4chan.
Oh my goodness, 4chan.
4chan is terrible.
No good can come from that place.
It's like Portsmouth.
Hey,
what?
all the memes go from 4chan to Reddit to the rest of the internet.
Yeah, well. So, the guy who does Smarter Every Day did a pretty good video on Pulse on Reddit. He's been doing a series on the different media platforms, but he had it was a pretty interesting video recently released.
Yeah, I saw it on how you get manipulated.
Oh yeah. It's actually kind of, that kind of blows. I'm drawing lines. Look at me. Woohoo! Look at me, I'm drawing lines.
But can you draw 7 parallel lines that are perpendicular?
Not at our current pace, but yes. Hold on, let me get you some mushrooms and a couple of drops of acid and show you.
I take it you've never seen the video.
Yes,
The engineering one, yeah.
I have. I just was going to give you some,
Could you tell me what that would look like? No.
Hold on. I want everybody to drink the tea that's in front of them, and we're going to wait about 10 minutes.
Can you make one of them the shape of a cat?
Yeah. 7 perpendicular lines, one of them in the shape of a cat. It's not perpendicular.
I've actually seen a couple renders, and there's some clever people out there.
Don't tell me it's doable.
You'd be surprised.
Well, let me rephrase that.
There's some people that took it as a challenge, and there's nothing that says that lines can't, I don't think they ever say straight lines in the video. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I forgot where we left off last night.
You were working on getting the Z to its Z thing. Did I just say the Z thing?
Getting the what to what?
Leveling the bed, doing the bed touch. You just got the bed to the Z to home. Next, you're going to work on bed leveling, is what you said you were going to do last night.
Oh, yeah.
And speaking of that, I'm actually going to start the YouTube stream so I can see what you're doing. And I'm going to mute it so I'm not repeating what is going on. Come on, freaking YouTube. Oh, I just demonetized you. Sorry about that. Anyway, Yeah, you were going to validate the kinematic points, but if you're using the standard bed, then it's already in the. Oh, there it goes.
That's just humming right now.
Yeah, but it's moving. I mean, last night we were so excited when it started to do that.
Indeed.
Believe me, we ran into all kinds of fun things. What was it that we finally figured out? Mostly
You're
I
back, guys.
be
I
right.
hear it. I see it moving.
I just wanted to run it up and down the Z screws real quick. Applying some lithium grease.
Oh, that's right.
Apparently I'm applying lithium grease to myself.
That's pretty much a given. The reason I wear gloves when I do that. Chamfers are your friend.
What's that?
I just said chamfers are your friend. Makes things printable.
I like fillets unless, depending on how big the geometry is. But there are certain times where you definitely don't want to use them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've started using more chamfers than fillets in certain areas.
You just up and down for a bit.
I'm sorry, what?
You're just gonna run it up and down for a bit.
I should write something to do that. For some reason, it won't let me go any further down in Z. It's odd.
How far down is it?
220.
Remember, you've got a mag. What's its location?
I'm at 220 for some reason.
Oh, that might be the config because Denals was based off of Jubilee V1.
Yeah. Where are the access limits?
Config file?
Well, yeah, I know. I meant where in the
Sorry.
config file. I'm sorry. I was kind of thinking out loud.
Then I will not help.
Mapping, networking. Steps.
You know, I had forgotten how much or little practice I needed to get back into the swing of things. Using vernier calipers, because I used to use them all the time, and so reading a vernier caliper took like half a second kind of thing.
Hmm.
That's it. And then I got out of practice with it. And now it's just like, yeah, okay. I was kind of a jerk when I went back to school.
Oh no.
Well, okay, I'm 40 plus years old. I have 4 kids. I've already had a career in the Navy, right? And I'm going back to college, and they forced me to take Electrical 101, even though I've been operating a nuclear power plant for years. And I'm in the class, and it's like, okay, we're starting basic DC or basic DC circuits, and doing circuit analysis on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, all right, all the kids, and I say all the kids, all the other students are like crunching away on their calculators and coming up with numbers that are like, okay, you've got way too many decimal places in that. They gave you 0.5. It's 0.5 volts. How many digits can you work with? And at that,
Oh,
you know,
I mean, that's like a significant figures thing, though. That's a bit different.
But I mean, it is. But it's just, you know, it's just simple resistors. We're literally doing, you know, a voltage source and resistor, you know, doing resistor logic, right? So it's not real hard. And after the first, we were doing quizzes every Friday. And after the second quiz, I stopped using my calculator, and I brought my old slide rule in. And I got so many funny looks, and I realized I'm just like, I was a jerk. Because I come into class, there was a quiz every Friday, and then when the quiz is done, we leave, and I'd be in there for all of maybe 15 minutes, and I do it with a slide rule. Even when we were doing, you know, multiple, you know, reasonably complex circuits, you can do it with a slide rule. And then Monday, we came back to class, he'd have a histogram on the board of all the questions, the number of people who answered it with a total score kind of thing, right? And there was always this big gap. Because he put extra credit questions on the test, on the quiz, right? And I wanted to challenge the course, but they wouldn't let me challenge the course. So it was, you know, with the scores, you know, 50, 60, 70s, 80s, a few 90s, and then 115. And by the end of the third quiz, he stopped counting mine toward the curve because he graded on a curve. Which, could you explain how that works? Because I've never really wrapped my brain around it, grading on a curve.
Oh, I'm not going to be a good person to describe this. No, honestly, okay, so the best way I would describe it is you create a mapping from the scores to a distribution of letter grades that you would like the population of the class to have. So what that effectively means is that, let's say the highest score in the class, let's forget about the extra credit for a second. Extra credit is what kind of screws this up. Let's say the highest score in the class is a 90. So you curve it where the maximum possible, like the best you could have done, like the best grade mapped to a 90. And the distribution of where a B falls from that A depends on the distribution of what everybody got versus, and mapping that to some distribution that you want to produce. So you basically decide up front, like I want 50% of the class to get B's, and I want 10% to get A's, and I want however many percent to get C's. And then you fiddle with the numbers based on the results until you get that result. It's quite strange.
Yeah. And my question is what does that do for the students?
Screws you
Well,
over.
okay, it depends on where you fall. The other thing too is that it's possible to screw this up too, because if you add extra credit and you curve it after you apply the extra credit, then you've basically screwed everything up. Because then it's not extra credit. Then you have to do it.
Yeah.
Anyways,
The way we did testing in the Navy when you're doing testing for rating exams and whatnot, one of the things they did is the 5 questions that they ranked the number of right answers. Each question, the total number of correct answers, total number of people who took the test, right? So typically it was 100 questions or 140 questions. But essentially they did a histogram for each question on the number of correct answers. And then they would
think that go ahead.
Top and bottom of those questions off. The top X number of questions and the bottom X number of questions, and they just removed them from the grading. And then what was in the middle was what was your score, and based on whatever you got right out of those questions.
Okay, different way of doing it. The other way to do it is to. Oh well, okay. So the other reason people will curve it is because it might end up being that the average or like the best score, and the average score ended up being like a 30%. And if you use a standard scale of like 80 or like 90 to 100 is an A, 80 to 90 is a B. I'm just making this up. 70 to 80 is a C. Then everyone has failed. And I don't think that's what they want. So with the curve, the idea is that maybe like a couple people have failed because they were at the tail end of the curve.
Yeah.
Not the whole class. So there's that. Anywho, it's strange. But
okay. Well, I mean, I'm glad that you think it's strange too, because you're actually more reasonable, recently. That's the word. Recently into the academics. So that's a thing, right?
Well, I mean, the thing, I guess on my end is that like there were cases in some of our like controls where we would like, oh man, I remember getting like a 8% or something, and like the highest score was like a 20 or 30. It was pretty bad. I remember like everyone feeling terrible after that test. But I mean, when you curve it, then I think the teachers were all very disappointed with us. But when you curve it, then not the entire class has to retake the course.
Yeah, I suppose.
It's just strange and interesting. I think, I mean, it's easy to realize or think that like everything is dubious and made up, and honestly, like everything is dubious and made up anyways. It's just how people make it up. So it's kind of hard to really judge it.
I went to school for a short period of time. When I was 16, I started taking college classes, and we had a professor who got in trouble because she basically got tired of grading everybody's work, all of our papers that we were supposed to write. And so one of the papers, she graded them by taking them and dropping them down the stairwell.
Oh no.
The things that landed on the bottom
got the F.
Got a better grade. The things that landed on top were the worst grades.
No, that's terrible.
Yeah, it was really bad. She got in trouble. But her argument was that she had already graded all of our stuff, and that she knew that we knew our stuff, and that it was the final paper was basically just all conjecture, and it was just an opinion piece, and she didn't really care.
That then I would say give everyone the make it not count, or give everyone the same grade and make it a good grade.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah, we were like, why wouldn't you just do that pass-fail?
Everybody wins. Whee!
well, I'm sorry.
And then I had a same experience that year. I had a professor who would not let me come to office hours with him because at the time I was already working as a software engineer professionally, and he did
I
not
hear
like
noise.
that.
He didn't like it. Oh yeah. Well,
He didn't like having a smart-ass 16-year-old kid in class who knew better than pretty much every other adult who was in the class and who made comments or questions about his code.
so basically, you were a smart.
I was a little bit of a smartass. Well, he was saying things that were. Yeah, my fiance says no. He was saying things that were technically true on the face of it, but inaccurate overall statements.
Oh, so basically, you were being pedantic.
Yeah, I was like, well, this can actually be done faster on this particular server
And
because
he was working on concepts. Now, granted,
yeah,
I had a private conversation with my electrical professor because he repeatedly um, given him specific information in the class that was going to get somebody killed in the lab or injured. It was electrical safety issue. Electrical safety.
yeah, he was trying to like beat into people's heads concepts like ON notation
And
and the fastest way to do like sorts and things. And I happen to know about particular APIs on a particular type of server that you could do things faster because it just
of course,
looked faster.
Wait,
yeah,
well, wait, what?
There were specific operations on that particular type of CPU that were several clock cycles faster. So from an ON notation perspective, it might be faster theoretically, but when implemented on that particular type of CPU, you could take advantage of things.
Oh, I think one of the challenges with teaching is that your like everything that you're telling somebody else is like a working definition. So
yeah,
there will be more information, and this is the not the problem with knowing too much, but this is where knowing too much can be a little bit strange if you're like going back. Is that you're building scaffolding off of like generalizations where you might know holes or loops around, so things don't quite add up as cleanly as if you're starting from a like an empty mind.
yeah,
Uh, and
Yep.
so yeah, I can imagine being on the other end and being very frustrated with like, wait a minute, like, okay, yes, of course, like like this exception is true, but like as far as like the molding of the big picture, like
Right.
that's the
Because
takeaway.
because he was talking about ON notation, and I understood that, but I also understood that it took multiple clock cycles to do what he was trying to do. Basically, there was an early escape clause in a particular set of bitwise operators.
yeah. But was he teaching
So
a particular process, a particular CPU, or was he teaching
that was
the
his
different
point. Was
course?
he was teaching ON notation, and he was teaching us about computational efficiency, and he basically the reason we got into it was he said implement this as this particular algorithm as quickly as you can, to be as performant as you can, and I did, and it was faster, but it was demonstrably faster than the other people's implementation, but the other people went by the book.
Was it tested on one particular processor?
It was tested on our school's mainframe.
I see.
So he was like, well, just because you know some little pedantic detail of this processor uh, doesn't mean that you're correct. And I'm like, well, but the task was to to do this as fast as possible. Here's how I did it.
Yeah, well, there you go.
He was the same professor who loved to take points off for every formatting mistake that you made in your code, and that included spaces versus white spaces versus tabs.
That's all right. It's like
Honestly, I'm kind of with I am okay with that. As someone who has had to deal with unreadable code because it went over a 120 character line limit, um, and did not have any line limit whatsoever. One of the things I have to remind myself is that you're writing software to be executed by a computer, but you're also writing software to be read by your fellow
by another
teammates.
person. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's really important.
I
Try to serve that person who could be you in 3 months.
I had a lovely developer who I basically looked at their code. They handed me a 400 plus line function to do something with lots of duplicate code over and over again in it. And I looked at it and said, hey, you need to refactor this out. Here's the functions you should refactor it out into. And he said, okay. And he basically then went and cut and paste the 4 chunks of code that he thought he could break it into 4 separate functions, and then called them switch case statement. And I'm like, okay, so how does it address? And I gave him a list of other issues, and he was doing things like passing parameters between the functions, but still having he was basically doing a bunch of unnecessary allocation of memory that he didn't need to, just pass references back and forth.
Yeah. Hey Eric, what you doing?
Oh, I was tweaking some of the configuration file to be a bit like I've got Josh's version open, and I kind of like the way, I don't know. But
Okay.
so I didn't want to say anything that would imply something bad about anything, and it sounded I didn't like the way it sounded in my head, so I stopped talking.
I don't mind.
Anything Josh wasn't here. Oh, did I say that out loud? Oops.
I was gonna say, are you gonna tell him that his baby's ugly?
No, I would never tell them that they have a monkey.
Well, the real reason I needed to start off with Denal's code is just because it's the Duet 3 versus the Duet 2.
Yeah, I'll get there. I mean, actually, I have already gotten there, but the machine is in school, and I can't go drive over and pick it up. Or drive over to school, period.
Wow, they literally don't let you even do that? Just to pick something up?
Well, we're on lockdown except for necessities. I'm sure I would not get in trouble if I drove over there, but it seems pretty irresponsible at this point if I were to go having been sick with what could be a cold, but even if it is a cold, it just seems irresponsible to risk getting other people sick with a cold.
I didn't.
I would weaken their immune system.
Yeah, anyways, I didn't. I was not realizing about the sickness thing.
Oh, it's all good. So everything's kind of delayed for a few days. So I apologize.
No worries.
You need to heal first.
Yeah, you don't.
And so,
definitely.
When you get if you get a viral loading test, and you have a common cold, the results are going to come back, and it's going to say coronavirus. Until you get to the part of that, the second part of the test results, because it'll say coronavirus COVID-19 or coronavirus something else. So, just be aware of that in case somebody tells you they got a test results that are of dubious origin. Assuming that anybody's actually getting test results at this point. I think Trevor Noah had it just about right. You have to be at least 25% famous in order to get a test. Oh, yeah, and apparently the DOJ is taking people joking around about this stuff pretty seriously. There's been at least 3 people charged under bioterrorism charges.
Yeah.
For intentionally spreading or threatening to spread or threatening to infect others.
Oh, it's terrible.
Well, there was a guy who worked at if I remember the story correctly, he worked at like a factory and he wanted time off. So he called in and said that he was sick and that he had tested positive. And his work basically was like, well, crap, now we have to check all these common areas. We should call CDC because he worked at a factory. And so they called it in, and he ended up getting charged.
And then you got the guy who licked the deodorant in a store. And then the woman in a small mom and pop grocery store coughed all over the meat department, intentionally coughed all over the meat department, the produce department, and some frozen foods. And claimed that she had a positive test and things like that. And this is terrible. And she was removed. And they ended up having to toss about $35,000 in food and sterilize all those, close the store and sterilize all those areas. She's been arrested and she is being charged. She is not infected. However, well, she's being tested. Let's put it that way. But people are just terrible.
Side note.
Side note, what's going on?
When you guys home, or I guess Josh, when you home and your files, do you home X and Y at the same time, or do you home them one at a time?
I do one at a time, and the reason why is because it makes, in my mind, it's safer to do Y first and then X, because it's possible that if you jam up the tool, if you have to e-stop and you are at the far end, or I guess the close end if you're in the front of the machine where the tool rack is, if you home X with the twist lock sticking into a tool, you'll just take all of them with you. So always pull back first. And to do that, to guarantee that you do that in a homing situation, you do it on a time where Y is first.
Okay. How do you know that you don't have a tool when you start homing?
The machine, you don't. You have to leave the machine in a state where you always have nothing between turning it on and off.
So if you had a power outage or whatever, or whatever, let's just say it stops, right? For whatever reason, and you come back and you got a tool on there. Essentially, right now you have to make sure you remove the tool.
Yeah. That is correct. And that's pretty easy to do. You just freewheel the twist lock. I was actually thinking about putting a little handle on it. You just freewheel the twist lock from the back. It pops out. Put it back on the parking post and you're good to go. And then you turn it on.
Oh yeah, a knob would be really nice on that actually.
Yeah, like a knob. So I will do a knob because somebody else mentioned that to me and it was a great idea. For this reason exactly.
So,
but that's the way the E3D tool changer works. It's kind of unless you have closed loop detection of a tool, you can't really know where you are.
Which I'm sure Brian's burning to say something about that right now.
Well, we had started talking about it
I know.
using the balls as a contactor in a 3-position switch or three pole series. I don't know how to describe. How would you describe that?
Yeah, it's just it's like 3 switches in series.
Yeah. So I think that's something that needs to be executed sooner rather than later.
Oh, I mean,
Not
I think you
that's a
really
big.
need it.
I'm sure Steve would love to take on a circuit board design.
Really?
And Luke was all excited about it. I still think getting I think the idea of adding, not necessarily making it visible just yet, but if you're going to design the board with an RFID reader built in.
Yeah, we talked about this.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, I don't think you really need it as of now. But yeah, that's just me. I don't know. I can print 2-color things. It seems okay.
I can print 2-color things. Such a low bar.
Well, it really depends on what you.
No, I'm just yanking your chain because I've had way too little sleep.
Okay, so objectives, constraints, functions. So like, what's the objective? Before like, so what we're describing is like a solution to a problem with that don't nodes we have, or it is like a function. But what is the like original objective that drives the creation of the function, besides personal indulgence?
Well, besides personal indulgence,
which like it's totally okay for people to personally indulge, but to personally indulge and oh, what's up?
I was thinking safety feature, machine state knowledge feature, because this is where if you have a tool locked up, right? If you have a tool engaged and all locked up, and you lose power, if the tool comes undone, well, you've got another issue. But the assumption is the tool will not unlock without power on.
It won't. Like, it won't fall.
Okay, so the tool will stay locked on the loss of power, right?
It might not be coupled, but it will stay there.
Okay. So the point what I was getting at was kind of like what Luke was working on and what I think Steve talked about, is the knowledge is a machine state knowledge, or knowing what the machine state is, knowing that a tool is engaged. On power on, that switch will be either, the assumption is that if it doesn't unlock when you lose power, right? If it doesn't disengage, then on power on, you'll know that there's a tool there, or at least the machine will have that indicator. So, the RFID thing is an indulgence, but the switch position, knowing that a tool is for positive engagement, I think is useful for the operation of the machine.
How are you supposed to initiate the tramming thing?
It's HomeZ.
Oh,
the auto tramming, the 3-point bed level.
Yeah.
Yeah, assuming you have written it, assuming it's in the config, that it's under, then HomeZ will do it.
HomeZ is just going to the center of the bed at the moment. I guess I got to look at your Z file.
Oh,
I
then
thought
it could be that Denal did not include it.
Check the height map.
There is no height map.
No, there is. It's over on the control. It's on the left side. It's in the nav bar.
No, I mean, I don't have a height map.
You have to generate it. Yeah, so
right.
Those data points have to be collected.
That's what I was getting at.
So is the question, how do you generate the height map, or is the question,
well, first,
how do you do the 3-point tramming?
Yeah, well, I guess I was trying to figure out how to do the 3-point tramming.
Oh yeah, okay. So that should be in your config file. If you click HomeZ, it would do it, but it sounds like if it were in the config file, but it sounds like it's not. So you're gonna have to compare. Oh, sorry, it's in bed.g. So HomeZ in my config invokes bed.g, which I think is the convention.
Uh-huh.
Um, and
Oh.
if you didn't copy that, then that's why it's not running.
Okay, so bed.g is in the file. Or is in the system.
G32?
Yes, but there should be some extra content there. You should physically see GCode.
Well, I
You
see,
can see
like, it looks
points
like
that
you
say
moved to
pickup
the
import.
center and home.
Well, HomeZ, if we look at the in the config file.
Yeah, I don't have it on the screen. Oh, hold on. I'm looking at Josh's right here. So this is the extra line, G32, which looks like runs the bed.g.
Okay, and then does bed.g, do you have bed.g on there as well?
Yeah, I have a bed.g.
Okay, let's read it. This is probably what
I put your code into it because
okay.
um his code was old anyway.
Okay, that looks right. Where it's like G31, G30, 3030.
Oh, whoops. Why am I putting that there? Oh.
Yeah, that needs to go back over in the HomeZ.
Yeah, that's what I meant to open. Yeah, basically I have.
Oh wow, that's a very verbose HomeZ.
Added some safe Z homing on it.
Oh, I see. Yeah, so you need a G32. There you go.
So yeah, we talked about it last night as we added some safe Z homing. So drop the bed by 10 before we move the carriage, just in case.
Oh, it does that when it homes X and Y. So before there's ever any movement, it will always drop the bed by 5.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, but if you just home
that's
Z
actually
alone, though, I don't know.
I would check the bed.g. Long story short, I would
The bed.g is your bed.g.
let's see. Oh, I checked it right now. Okay, so it doesn't actually do any vertical drop. I think it's in.
Yeah, it does do a vertical drop when it goes to home X.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I think it's in home all. Yeah, it's in home all. G91. G1.
Yeah, but like if you just hit home Z though, it should. I don't know. I still think it's a good idea to have it drop.
It's impossible to home Z without homing X and Y.
Well, what if X and Y were already homed?
Then by definition, you are safely above the bed. Does that make sense?
Not if somebody's screwing around and hits home Z after they've moved stuff around manually, which is on them, of course, but.
The only thing you might want to add in this state would be a drop-off tool. That might be the only thing you might want to put in, because if you're carrying a tool, then this won't work. But yeah, it is. Yeah, it's one thing. It's worth thinking about. But if you have already homed Y and X, then you don't have to add an extra Z movement in Z before homing, because you're already by definition above the bed safely somewhere. Oh, here we go. I'll warn you that you have to be pretty close already, unless you have to really play with the parameters. If they're not really close already, then this doesn't work.
I just saw it do something.
Oh, that looks like it worked.
Yeah, I watched it flatten out.
Cool.
And now there's,
go
ahead.
Just as a heads up for everyone, if you're off by more than 5 millimeters, it won't work. And that was kind of intentional because the Z probe only sticks out so far that if your bed is really warped, you're gonna crash into the carriage.
Well, I visually kind of leveled it out, but only kind of.
Yeah. Well, that looks really good.
Yeah. So I thought you said that you did a mesh on yours now.
Oh, I did on the old Jubilee that I had because the TSA, not the TSA, but the people who actually throw your packages around, basically I didn't pack it very well. So I had to do mesh bed leveling on that one, but I didn't do mesh bed leveling on V2, which is the one I currently have. I don't have any good documentation on how to do it yet because the way the RepRap does it is that no, it's doable. Okay, so the RepRap, basically there's a distance between the mesh. Hang on, I'm gonna cough. Okay, I'm coughing. The Z probe is offset from the nozzle. The way mesh bed leveling works is that you have to tell it how much the Z probe is off from the nozzle.
Yep, the offset.
No, it's like an XY offset. Sorry.
Well, there's an XY offset also. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So just the Z one doesn't matter because we're gonna put it in manually for all of them anyway. But the XY one, if you basically you have to like assume a virtual nozzle. I'm making this way more complicated than it has to be. I don't have any good instructions on how to do this yet.
Okay, so big picture here is we are building a software map, a mesh map, height map of the bed. And then we have a probe offset. So the probe offset for the nozzles, and that's an XYZ value. And that is added to that is used to offset the height map whenever the fade is being used, to account for, variations in the bed. But
so that part is fine. Okay, so I guess I basically wasn't clear at all why this is hard. The reason this is hard is because RepRap, the way they define the way they compute the mesh bed offset is relative. You have to define the offset of the probe that's actually going to do the measurements relative to the nozzle tip. And the problem is that at our printer, the nozzle tip changes. It's not necessarily they're not one. It's not a fixed unit. The nozzle tip could be a different nozzle tip, and so you actually can't perfectly know unless you measure it with a microscope what the actual transformation in XY the nozzle tip is from the Z probe tip.
Really? You just can't keep multiple meshes or multiple offsets?
Oh no. So you don't have to do multiple meshes. I'm sure that's probably good if you wanted to. But what you want to do is what you need to do is, or what I suggest doing is you take tool 0, that's your reference, and all of your other tool offsets will be defined relative to tool 0. So that will put tool offsets for tool 0. But then what you also have to do is you need to physically measure the offset from tool 0 to the tip of the Z probe. And the best way I can suggest doing that is by using the USB microscope.
Okay.
Anyways, So the reason this is important is because mesh bed leveling is relative to the tip of your nozzle. And RepRap firmware knows that the sensor that's actually doing the probing is a distance away. It's not on top of the nozzle. It's somewhere else.
Right.
So, but the problem is that I can't give you that number for CAD model because it's slightly different based on the types of. I basically can't predict all of the types of nozzles that everyone's ever going to put onto Jubilee.
Why not?
I can give you a nominal number, and honestly, that nominal number might be good enough. And maybe I should just do that, put that in the config, and tell everybody forget about it because it's probably not going to make a big difference. If you're off by, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. I'll give everybody the number, which is the offset from a nominal tool 0 location to the Z probe, and then I can tell. I'll just put that in the config and tell people how to mesh bed level based off of that. Yeah, so I'll come up with some instructions for mesh bed leveling. But yeah, this helps. Sorry.
There you go.
So, one of the things I've just realized is looking at these pulleys. Some of them are most definitely smoother than others.
Did you say smoother? Oh, like the way they feel when they roll? Yeah, that is a thing.
I can tell that the bearings aren't aligned with one another because when I put it on the shoulder bolt, it is harder to it doesn't want to just one will literally just slide down to the shoulder bolt no problem. The other one will actually kind of wind up when it hits the other side.
Okay.
Second.
No, that's kind of weird. Yeah, if I were in that situation, I would try to swap it out for another one in my bag of generic pulleys.
That's what I've been doing, is going through the pulleys that will resist the least.
Yeah, mainly because it's like, oh, they're so cheap, I'll just fix that.
And then also, I'm putting the pulley that has the best movement on top of the stack, where it wants to bind with the plate.
Okay. That works.
Yeah, I will get the Gates compatible one out because that put more space in for this kind of flop because there's now a mandatory washer if you're using the generics, and that will, life will be better.
Yeah, and now I can actually see. So before, when this was stacked up, there was it was right at the surface of the shoulder bolt, where it screws in. Now I can see that there's actually the shoulder bolt extends just the slightest.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, so I verified that the heater does work. It's just reading a really hot temperature for some reason. Let's see.
Really?
Well, it's saying that it's sitting at 81 degrees right now, which obviously it's not.
That's not right.
Let me look and see what the configuration between Josh's and Denal's is.
Oh, well, we may be using different sensors. That could be totally it.
Well, yeah, I know. That's what I figure. I put on the lug sensor that you recommended.
Okay, great. I have noticed a 5-degree difference from the true temperature, but that is a fixable problem with software. I just have to sit down and characterize the bed plate and modify the K factor, I think, on that one.
So it's definitely a stack up problem, and I have a question for you, Josh.
Okay, what am I doing?
So when I put the bottom washer on, the bottommost washer, the
You mean
shim,
shim? Okay, okay.
yeah, that is when it binds up.
Oh, that's weird. Okay. Oh, but we already agreed that it's still the pulley,
Because what's happening is
the
when
bearing is still sticking out, right?
not with these.
Oh, so they're now the bearings are all perfectly flat.
Yeah, they're as flat as these are gonna get. like what I'm seeing is that when it's all screwed down, there is basically, one shim of movement top to bottom. So I'm wondering if it matters, if it will matter to take that bottom shim out.
The shim is, I mean, the shim is really nice. It's a best practice, but you could probably remove it, and it'll probably be okay. Honestly, the better solution here. Okay, no, I don't like that solution either. Okay, no, well, okay. Actually, I don't mind. So what you could do is you could print the Delrin plate instead and make it like 1.5 or 1.4 millimeters thick.
Yeah.
Instead of 1.6. That would be one workaround, which would be, honestly, it seems like a good bet. Because that way you could still have the shim. You'd still have a material there that's holding it there.
Yep.
How about just taking the Delrin and
Well, my other thought was
down one side, because Delrin can be sanded.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, or you could just sand it.
Just come on, take off a tiny bit of material.
Okay. I'm going to be honest. I did suggest sanding first because it takes a lot of work. It takes more work than you might think. But if you have a nice power sander, something that'll do really quickly, then yeah, no worries.
Oh, okay.
I'm more worried about the fact that doing that is a once I've done that, I've committed. Like.
I mean, sanding is a good option.
You have problems with
no unsanding of the.
Well, sanding is also a slow process where you can constantly measure. This is how like incredible woodworkers are able to put like crazy amounts of detail and like get like crazy like radiuses, like beautiful crazy perfect radiuses on like random shapes because they measure it and they're only taking off so like tiny bits at a time.
Well, also one of the dirty secrets is everybody uses cyanoacrylate to finish pens and really smooth surfaces that you're trying to get like mirror finish.
Really?
Yeah.
I was using scrapers and sandpaper to take the most off, and then I finished with either a surface plane or a hand scraper.
But when you watch, one of the most popular ways for like turning pens and stuff, you basically buff on CA glue and then buff it smooth, and it looks so mirror perfect. People think it's plastic half the time.
Yeah. I mean, that's a way to do it, but I mean, like, you don't have to do that here. Just like a couple hundred grit sandpaper in like 5 minutes, but an actual 5 minutes.
Just have the sandpaper on a flat block in front of your desk and do it while you're working. It's idle hands.
Yeah, just don't accidentally do it at an angle. I mean, it would probably be okay there too, but
figure eight. Practice like you're polishing the end of the fire.
Hey, it warmed up.
Okay.
Tuning the bed is like the scariest part for me.
It's like I got the AC bed powered on for the first time last night, and I'm like, okay, first I'm going to set it to 30 degrees, which is all of 10 degrees more than the room temperature, right? And I turn it on, and I hear this squeal, and then I realize that that's the PWM cycling for the bed, and it took about 10 seconds. And it's at 30.1 degrees. It's like, okay. And the entire bed is an even temperature. That's on the 500 by 500.
Yeah.
And then I went up to 60, and I let it sit there for 10 minutes, and the bottom of the bed was still cold. When the sandwich I've got on there.
Yeah. That's oh right, because you're insulated.
Yeah, the bottom of the bed was still cold.
That's cool.
Oh, that was the point. Yeah.
Yeah. In my experience, this one on Jubilee takes about 4 minutes. Because you really the aluminum plate really has to finish thermally expanding.
No reason not to give it a soak. I mean, I was just trying to see. I was doing this is the initial power.
Yeah. So like the reason the sensor is where it is, so that you kind of guaranteed that the heat has gone all the way to the end of the bed.
Okay.
Ideally, it would be on the top, but because that way you can get the heat transfer from one end to the other, but it's like more work.
Okay, but the bed heater is a silicone bed heater, and it goes all the way to the edges, so it should be an even heat as it's heating.
It's close. It's pretty darn close.
I hate 9 volts.
Oh, are you looking for a battery for a IR thermometer?
Maybe.
I had this problem like a month ago, and it was a 9-volt problem.
Yeah.
That said, it's really funny because it turned out when I got the 9 volts and I put it into my IR thermometer, which was a throwaway from my uncle that I got for free, it didn't work. However, it had been working for years before that. So when I bought a replacement one, that was expensive. The replacement ones use, like the newest ones use AA or AAAs, which was great, and only 2 of them. So they've gotten better.
Which would be nice because I just got a whole thing of AAAs. Half tempted to hate.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
So it is definitely the standoff height. So I'm gonna.
Oh, did you measure it?
Hold on, I will. But
Yeah.
if I tighten everything down, it is fine when I tighten the posts down until I tighten the standoffs.
Oh, I mean, like I wouldn't blame the standoff. You're talking about the standoff and not the shoulder screw, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So
Yeah, like I can't play. Well, let's finish the standoff.
Standoff is flexing the plate down.
Yeah, put a shim on the fan. Put a washer on.
And it's. I put a tiny one. I'm gonna have to print a little bit bigger one.
Okay, I just thought you had some like M3 stainless washers in your toolbox.
I do not currently. That was one of the things that is on my list. I printed a little set of little washers spacers, we shall call them.
Spacers!
Exactly.
Sorry. It's a requirement.
But yeah, when I tighten those down is when it becomes problematic. And if I look,
okay. Huh.
there's like just a tiny bit of space at the edge relative to each one of the standoffs. And if I tighten the standoffs down, you can see the plate flexes comes into contact with the edge of the pulley.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I still wouldn't. I mean, unless the standoff is. I mean, standoffs are pretty consistently machined. So unless it's like actually shorter than it's supposed to be, I would still blame, like the tolerances or manufacturing that are so much tighter than the tolerance stack up of the things that we have stacked up on the shoulder screw, that I'm still going to blame that stack up instead, first.
Okay.
Like the standoff is probably like normal size. It's just everything else is too. I mean, unless we bought a standoff and it's like a millimeter too short, then that's probably the problem. But
Well, now you're making me break out calipers and stuff.
yeah, that's the only way to know that this problem is coming from some particular place. No knives in the dark.
All right. Yeah, for some reason I'm still reading a crazy temperature on it. What's funny though is that now that it's warm to the touch, I don't see it dropping, and I haven't had the heat on in a while.
Wait, it's on, but this sensor is wrong?
So here you can see I only ran the bed for a brief period of time, and you can see that now I'm reading 97.5
instead of like 80 or something, right?
Right, and now it's just stuck at 97.5, even though I haven't it's been
you know
like
what? It might just be
4
moving
minutes.
really slowly. Oh, 4 minutes is quite a bit.
See, 1, 2, 3. Actually, it's been about 6 minutes, according to the graph here. So
The standoffs are 18.06 millimeters.
Weird.
How long are they supposed to be?
I believe 18.
Okay.
So that looks okay.
If you're concerned about it. Well, the thing is, they're short. I mean, they're over.
My only thought is if that screw, if the shoulder bolt is canted at all, that those tolerances are so tight.
Whoa, did you unplug something and plug something in weirdly?
I have 2 heat sensors on the bed because I didn't really see the point of cutting off the other one, so I ran them both over to the Duet for giggles.
Okay. Oh, then you know what? This might just be interesting. It's probably a config problem then. Well, the fact that it's reading 81 and then.
Well, I just unplugged the one that was on the bed lug, and I hit the lug with my soldering iron briefly just to see if it would change temperature, and it did. I don't think the soldering iron temperature made it all the way to the center of the bed, so. Yeah, see, this looks decent. 60 feels about 60. It's a little uncomfortable to touch, but it's not burning me.
Oh, okay. So the bed is on.
Yeah, I have it on right now. I was just kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, I switched to the other sensor just to kind of see what was happening, and.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So this is almost certainly a config issue.
Yeah. So I thought I dropped. So I dropped your.
Yeah, let me check. It could be out of date. There's a couple things in the config that just needed to get updated. One of them was the steps per millimeter or per degree on the U-axis, and it could be that this is another one that is oops. Let me check. Config.
Steps per millimeter on the U-axis. What's that supposed to be right now?
The tool changer lock. If you're using the stepper online one, it's like 11.5.1 or like 11.429. 11.4 or 11.5 will be.
Yeah, I have 11.429.
Okay. Mr. Okay, for the solder log, for the solder terminal log, it's line 71, which is B3435. For the one in the BOM, sorry, for the one that comes with the Keynovo, it's the next line after that. Or
What?
sorry, for the two after that, sorry.
Where are you
line
looking
70.
right now?
I'll paste a link. Hang on, I'll click on it first. I'll paste a link. Paste. I'll get rid of this embed.
All right, you said line 71. Oh, this looks completely different than what I'm looking at. Or unless.
So, the line 71 is for the solder terminal log.
Oh, there's okay. I see what I was.
Oh no, something bad.
Huh?
What?
Oh, what happened?
What?
Oh, never mind. You said oh, and then
No. So I was looking at the file. Here. Let me put this back over here. So I was looking down here, and because I saw bed heater parameters, I did not look all the way up here where there's more bed stuff.
Oh, my bad. Oh yeah, because they're thermistors. You know what? I should just pull the thermistor stuff related to the bed and just put it under the bed.
Yeah, I think the beds should be grouped together and probably bed stuff.
Yeah, that goes for like extruders too, because they have their own thermistors.
Yeah.
Keep everything in its own.
Like section, yeah. Okay. My bad. Yeah. So with the solder terminal log, try that value, and that should fix it.
Cool.
I hope. Well, fingers crossed. We don't know if it fixed it yet.
You doing all right, Josh? You're starting to sound tired.
Oh, I'm okay. I just hoarse.
Okay.
With an A.
I'll be right back. I need to go get a beverage. What kind of beverage do I?
Man, that.
Was that my friend?
No, that was my multimeter. It beeps at me if I don't turn it off. And
it's like that stuff around here that a beep like that could be anything.
M305. Where is that in here?
Oh, is this something else config?
Yeah, I'm trying to
temperature sensors? Yeah, there it is, temperature sensors. There we go, bed.
This right here.
The top one, yeah. Okay, you have 3950. That would explain it.
Yeah, except you're using an M305 and this is an M308.
They changed from Duet 2 to Duet 3. It's probably going to be my best guess. So what I would do is keep the Duet 3 command and just replace the B value.
Okay, so you have 3 different things here. So
yeah,
the B value is the B value is the only one that matters?
Yeah, because there's like a P0, H0, all that stuff I think is probably not relevant.
Okay, because I have no idea what that is, obviously, without like looking stuff up. So, okay, I will. Is this just the value of the resistor or something?
Not exactly. So the way thermistors work is that they're nonlinear, and thermistors are weird. They're nonlinear, but there is a thermistor model that they behave according to, and the thermistor model takes a bunch of constants, and the most important one is like the beta value, and then all the rest of them are pretty secondary. It's like the Steinhardt coefficients, I think is what they're called.
Oh,
So
sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, right, so basically it is like the main Steinhardt coefficient is what it is. And it depends on the manufacturer. But as a result, because it's mapping to like a model of the thermistor, you can play with that value a little bit if something isn't quite right. That looks interesting.
I unplugged one and plugged in the other. Oh, where did that go?
Hey,
So
it's right there. Yay.
the difference between the two is very small.
Wait, so
Well, the B value is very small.
no, wait, it's 3435, I think is the one. You're talking
others.
about the
Yeah,
3984 versus the 39 like thing?
Well, what is the L160? That doesn't matter?
I think that doesn't matter. I think they were basically like get rid of L and do. Okay. So first question. Is your thermistor which thermistor are you using? The terminal lug or the built?
There we go. I'm trying to get it to switch over to the lug,
Okay.
which
Yeah. So
I think I got it now.
3435. That looks correct. So full screen, yes.
How do is it possible to show a second bed thermal resistor?
I do not know.
You just assign it as another sensor.
Well, I
think
thought I tried to do that, but I always didn't do something correctly. Or completely, I don't
look
know.
at the documentation.
Yeah, it'd just been cool to be able to see both beds reading, excuse me, both of them reading at the same time. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I totally agree. I think this is also a good case. I think this is why they had the two, but I don't want to send you down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, I'm probably not gonna stay up much longer. I stayed up way too late last night.
Well, this looks awesome. Don't forget to do a bed heater calibration, and don't push 100 if you can help it while you're doing the calibration, because it does tend to overshoot. And if something happens to be going wrong and you're actually at like 120 or 130, well, at this point you picked the right thermistor. So yeah. So don't push 120, because the peak does go a little hotter than that, and the demagnetizes at 150.
I do have solder, or what do you call it? Thermal cutoff fuses in there.
Oh, then I'm less worried.
Yeah,
I'm not worried.
Although it would be a pain in the butt to replace them the way they're put in, but if it is what it is, if I have to replace them, then at least I don't have to replace the magnets.
I mean, you're going to do your PID tuning, right? What do you plan on printing mostly, right? PLA, PETG?
I do a lot of, like, on my other printer, I print usually around 65 to 80.
So, for tune for what you do most. And then if you're going to start doing things at different temperatures, rerun the tuning for the new temperature that you work at. Unfortunately, you can't, unless you want to, you know.
I mean, if I tune it at 80 and I print it at 65 or 100, does it really make that much of a difference?
Depends on the nature of your heater, what the Teresa solder is and whatnot.
Look how like steady the temperature is. It's dropping, but it's super slow.
A lot of mass in that because it's a pretty thick bed.
Yeah.
Heat it up again one more time.
Think about when you do the bed heater calibration, you have to heat it up. You ramp it up to temperature from ambient, and then you wait for it to ramp down like 50 degrees or something from where you started. So this is a heads up. It takes like 20 minutes. Right?
Okay. When I run the PID in Marlin, it's it drops 5 degrees, and it does it over 10 cycles, and then it calculates the PID numbers based on that.
Just got an error.
Yeah.
What error did he get? Was it a bed overshoot or something?
Yeah.
Right.
So you need to you have to exactly. You have to calibrate the bed heat. You have to calibrate the bed.
I mean, I should still see a change in temperature if I make it hotter, shouldn't I? Regardless if I've calibrated it or not?
Yes, but the software has decided to turn it off because.
Well, no, right now I'm feeling it. The bed is definitely warmed up. Like, it's probably around 60 degrees right now. But the temperature did not change on the...
Yeah, the temperature didn't change, and while you're applying heat, and depending on it's your thermal runaway protection. So you probably killed power to the...
No, what I'm saying is I'm looking at the graph right now, and I'm not reading a temperature change, and I can definitely feel there is a temperature change for sure.
Is it continuing to get warm?
Well, no, it's off.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
but,
so that was the indication is that they didn't the firmware did not see a change, an expected change in temperature.
Right. I know what the error is. I don't care about that. I'm wondering why I'm not seeing a temperature change is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, he's wondering why he's not seeing it on the graph.
Is the graph still running?
Yeah.
It is right there. It could be the sensor. That's possible.
Yeah.
So Josh, I measured the stack up from the top of the pulley to the bottom washer or bottom shim, and it's basically 18 point, I believe, 2.
What?
Wow, those pulleys are really sticking out. Those bearings are really sticking out more than I expected.
Yeah, 18 point. Yeah, it's between 18.24 and 18.3.
Interesting. Yeah,
I don't know. I think I'm just going to run off the center one for the time being. Because that one seems to work.
Yeah. Steve, I would say your pulleys are the pulleys are the bearings are still sticking out.
Not really. I mean, I can take one apart and measure it.
Maybe your pulleys are like nominally more than 8.5 millimeters. That's kind of what I was expecting them to be, based on a bunch that I measured.
8.9.
There we go. That's the problem.
So, okay. It's
Okay.
aluminum.
So what does the PID tuning really accomplish anyway?
I think it just gives you a little bit finer control. Also the other thing too is that I think it actually creates, I don't actually know this for sure, I think it actually creates a model of what it expects, how it expects the heater to behave. No, I'm pretty sure it does something like this, where it creates a model of how it expects the heater to respond to temperature. And if it doesn't respond to temperature within a certain delta of what it commanded, it will turn it off.
Okay. We got two different things going on here. So the second thing you were talking about, if it doesn't respond, if we don't get a temperature change over 2 seconds with the heater, with power applied to the heater, it's thermal runaway, and that's where it turns off. Your PID tuning builds a model of the heater bed thermal performance, and it adjusts the cycle times because it's a PWM control on the heater, not bang bang, right? And which means that you come up to temperature and you're not overshooting and undershooting. It lets you cycle and control temperature very carefully. So PID temperature controls.
Well, right now I'm watching the temperature. It barely overshot, cooled back down, and it's holding pretty much a perfect steady 60C. So if I run the PID, I mean, really, what's going to change?
Yeah, I would recommend doing it anyways. Sorry, so technically, Brian, correct. When I was responding to Eric, so as if you were, as if Eric were referring to general bed heater tuning, which is the M303.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Oh, no, it's my bad because we're kind of like using PID tuning as like we're all kind of using PID tuning as like a blanket statement for like doing the whole bed heater tuning process. But PID tuning is like a different thing, is like its own thing in itself, and it's one of the things that the bed heater tuning process does.
Okay, I don't know what your bed heating process. Heater.
So as far as like whether or not you should run it because it's going to create a model of the heater and how it responds to changes. And my guess is that the default one is probably more conservative than the bed heater, that we put into the machine. So it will probably cut things off as it responds basically too fast. And the reason I say that is because when I did the bed heater tuning, it gave me a warning and said that the bed heater was overpowered because it's supposed to be silicone mat, so it can get hotter faster than other things.
I've seen that warning pop up, but I didn't purposefully run a tuning. How do you run the tuning, by the way?
Oh, I made some instructions. I pasted them in the live stream chat.
All right, I'll worry about that tomorrow.
I also made instructions for the extruder.
Cool. Yeah, could you do the PID tuning on the extruder heater? So it knows how to adjust how to keep the heater temperature as consistent as possible. But you have to do the tuning. Okay, dude. Yeah. No, I do PID tuning on the espresso machines. So.
No, I've never actually done a tuning on my other machine, and I've never once had any sort of issue caused by it. So I never really understood what the point is.
Well, a lot of times
it makes sense here because. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying a lot of times, if like the big box, they were probably tuned before they shipped them out.
Exactly, or like something like that.
Or they're within a close enough range. Yeah.
Yeah, or their default that they give you in the firmware is close enough that you don't see a problem. A lot of times your numbers may not be that far off, but sometimes they are. So
I think there are bed heater parameters that I can pull out and paste in the config such that the starting point is pretty darn close and people don't have to do the tuning if they don't want to.
It's not that I don't want to. I just never. I mean, especially when Brian was like, "Oh, you need to make sure you retune it when you change the temperature." It's like, but do you really?
I don't know the performance on this bed with your heater. It may not be a big difference. It might be. And it may not. It depends on how tight you want your temperature variation.
But so what exactly are you trying to control with it, though, I guess? You're trying to make sure that the ripple is very small?
Yes, your overshoots and undershoots are very small.
Yes, that and the bed heater tuning is modeling the heater for safety. So if it goes outside of what is expected within a certain delta, it will kill power.
Yep. So you're building your thermal runaway protection at that point.
Oh, so that's a good answer.
Yeah.
I can buy the runaway protection, but yeah, as far as how close they hold voltages, I've never really seen anything like have massive overshoots or undershoots just because I didn't tune it.
Well, I've seen.
Oh my God, I have, for everything else that I've done besides printers, I've always had to tune.
Yeah, so the way to think of it is it's a combination of things. It's basically it's tuning the how long it can turn. So if you think about it this way, if you turn on and off the power, if you were just bit banging it on off, right? It's how long till I see a change in temperature. So if I'm just bit banging it, on off.
There we go.
How many times does it take?
There,
how long does it have to be on before I see a difference in the temperature sensor? Right?
Yep. I just posted in the chat a PID controller description, and it describes what the P, I, and D numbers mean as part of the feedback loop process.
Well, I kind of know what PID loops are and all that. Like I've used them in other things. I figured
you did.
But like just the heaters, it seems like everybody gets excited about it, and I've never really seen much of a difference. But I guess maybe it's just because I've been lucky.
Some materials are more sensitive than others as for temperature variation on the melt zone. And
I realize I need to go do something.
Yep, it also has to do with responsive time. So if your flow rates change drastically, right, you want your heater to not overheat or allow. You want your heaters to be able to keep up if your flow rates increase rapidly, or you want your heaters to be able to cool down to maintain the temperature in the melt zone if your flow rates drop rapidly or drastically, because the plastics flowing through the nozzle are carrying away a lot of heat, right? So if that flow rate changes, you need to be able to adjust and know how it's going to behave, so you don't get wild. Oh, hey, I'm so sorry, dude. I just ran over his tail. He's so mad at me. You need to be able to adjust so you can maintain temperatures, because some materials are going to be different than others.
Okay, I need to disappear because I'm supposed to do something and I have to finish it before I go to sleep.
All right, good night.
Cheers, everybody.
Yep, have a good night.
I'm going to bed too.
Yeah, me too.
I'm going to in a minute. I'm solving my problem with spacers.
Spacers! And I have finished the design on my bed heater